let's get started for today. I have had COVID for the last week and a half or so, so I am sorry if I sound a little bit funny. I'm pretty sure I'll feel and sound a lot better next week. But yeah, let's get started on this. So I wanted to do a quick 14-day challenge. I didn't want to skip a critique hour, but I also didn't want to do a long one. So I'm going to do a really, really quick 14-day challenge critique for today. Um, So let me just separate those layers from each other. Okay. So the issues with this portrait are that you have a very, like you have good structure, but it looks muddy. And I wanted to talk about what's making it look muddy. Again, I'm so sorry that I sound like this. My voice has been doing this thing where it just runs out mid-sentence. Um, and of course, I sound very different altogether. But yes, I am again, once again, sorry. So I'm going to get rid of all the patching. I'm going to try to find the midtone, meaning that not the highlight or the shadow, just this midtone right here. And I'm going to try to expand it everywhere. So what that's going to do is it's going to help get rid of that patchiness. So the patchiness I'm talking about are these shadows right here. The cheekbone is a high point in the face. So one side of the cheekbone, one side of the mountain should be illuminated with light, and the other half should be dark. So why is the shadow climbing over the hill and sitting where the light can reach it? That's why it looks muddy. All of these shadows around the eyes, all of these areas here, shadows are just expanding beyond their borders. And that's why you're ending up with this muddy look to everything. So all I'm doing right now is I'm just cleaning up. Does the audio sound okay? All right, so I'm just continuing that mid-tone of the temple line down into the cheekbone, carrying the highlight of the cheekbone right against that same mid-tone, and factoring out that middle shadow that you added above the cheekbone. You can have a shadow for the cheekbone, just under the cheekbone, just like that. And so that muddiness is going to come back and haunt you when it's time to apply these values to color. The next thing you did was value share. So again, what's value sharing? Value sharing is when you use the same value to describe two completely different things. You can say that the nostril and the eye socket are two holes. You can say that. You can say that they're comparable. You can say that the nostrils and the mouth hole are similar because they're two holes in the face. You can say the cheekbone and the chin are very similar, right? Because they're two hills on the face. You can say the forehead and the cheekbone are similar to each other because they're both curved hills. Can you say that the nose and the eye socket are similar to each other? Yes or no? No, you can't. So why is that happening? Why do they sound similar? Why do they look similar? They look similar because you are using a value that is too similar to that value used in the eye socket. First of all, this eye socket value is way too dark. And then second, this is just beyond dark. It does not need that darkness. The nose is an elevation, and so it just needs a very mild value for it. Okay? So I'm just applying that very mild value to the sides of the nose. All right? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up the shadow you have on the nose edge. Value sharing once again. This isn't a dark-skinned character where I need to leave the shadows alone, because look at the midtones and the highlights. This is like a Mediterranean skin tone. It's not quite dark African skin tone. It's not quite dark Indian skin tone, or you know, that part of India where its skin is dark. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant of regions in India and different provinces, I think they're called. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that everywhere else. Find anywhere you have a patch of shadow that does not belong. So this cast shadow here does belong here, but it needs to be evened out. It needs to be brought to a level where the black of the nostrils still reads as a black. Okay? Then again, the area of the eye socket needs to stay dark, but not that dark. So this is where all that muddiness is coming from. And not just muddiness, you had an excess of highlight as well, which is why this character, their skin tone, which is why this character's skin tone doesn't really feel like it's consistent even in the highlights. It doesn't feel quite Mediterranean or quite tanned. Okay? And so that's what I'm doing everywhere. I'm finding where we have these inconsistencies, these peaks in contrast. And I'm evening them out. You have some patchiness around the mouth. I get it. Some characters, some people do have this kind of dark, patchy pigmentation around the mouth. I can leave that alone. But I'm not sure if the artist intended that, or is this just hover rendering? All right, and so almost done looking at the navigator. Lower half of the face is a little bit too dark, so I can leave the patchiness as long as it stays like a consistent value. It's just reading a little bit like a mustache. So I'll leave some of the pigmentation and preserve that discoloration that can happen in certain skin tones. And then right over here, what I'm doing is I'm trying to blend the eyebrows into that nose line, which is this line, just so they don't look extremely angry. And so I'm gonna blend all of that out. I'm gonna use a smudge brush to blend all of that. So your understanding of values is just a little bit on the muddier side. Excuse me. It's really hard for me to mute on time. My Yeti mic has a weird mute button that I need to press in this perfectly angled way for it to engage, and I don't always make it. There's also OBS, but I'd have to switch to the mouse really quickly, and by then the cough's already come and gone. So I'm just going to create some edges now that I've gotten rid of some of this excessive contrast. So sometimes when we have too much contrast, we compensate by applying edges. Sorry. When we don't have edges, you can see my brain fog. When we don't have edges, sometimes we compensate by using too much contrast. There's the sentence. And so I'm just sharpening the edge of the nostrils just here. To try to get the shape of the nostrils to come out. All right. Shh. My bird wants a kiss right now of all times. And I'm just adding a little bit of highlight under the mouth. Oh, right. The keyboard shortcut. Hi, Brandon. How are you? Oh, my energy's not great today. I wish we came at a day where I actually had energy. But thank you for popping in. All right. And then I'm just gonna clean up this edge right here. All right. And I'm just going to shape that teardrop shape of the nostrils. And I'm gonna blend that out. So you want it so that when you add color finally to your process, it doesn't feel like the colors are all over the place, because the colors will be all over the place if your values are all over the place. Okay, and I'm just going to get rid of this extra shadow you have around the septum, and instead of letting the shadow sit on the septum, I'm going to let it sit under the septum. Okay, so I reduced the lightness in the skin, I reduced the patchy darkness in the skin, so now the skin tone feels more uniform. Okay, so then we have the upper lip and then the Cupid's bow all need a block of highlight and a big block on the chin, just the top of the chin, but not so much that we've now created a new skin tone. We just want the even skin tone. Then we can bring back those highlights on the cheeks, but in a much more stable way. We're not just picking a whole bunch of highlight and just slapping it on and then over blending. Not that that's exactly what you did. That's why I have to be quiet, because when I get excited and start talking, she just gets crazy. She's very responsive. So I'm adding a little bit of highlight on the upper eyebrow area, because these look like hooded eyes. So that means that there's a lot of fat deposit. And some people have hooded eyes, so that means that they're heavier. Gravity's pulling them down. She is my child, yes. And then this mouth has a cylindrical, not all mouths are cylindrical. Some mouths have a very flat look to them. So I'm gonna try to keep this the general shape, but add a little bit of a cylindrical touch to it. And again, I'm gonna blend all that out. Once again, I'm so sorry about how I sound and my general lackluster delivery today. I had COVID last week, so I'm just recovering from it. Okay, and so I'm blending this area out. I'm blending this out. I'm keeping the eyebrows dark because, well, you know, they're eyebrows, it's pigment. Those gotta stay dark if they need to be. Not trying to change characteristics that are, you know, that we can leave alone. And then I'm going to she's just sent a fire alarm with no battery, like. All right, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of highlight on the inner eye corner. Just a touch, and a little bit under the eye. This is for that wetness, that texture difference that happens. Okay, and I'm blending on the upper area. So now I'm gonna do what I wanted to do when I first opened this piece, which is the eyes. The eyes have a very, very cartoony shape to them. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to outline the eyes exactly as you drew them. I'm not, it's not exact. I'm trying. Ah, son of a, okay. I got a new layer and I'm going to outline the eye exactly as you drew it. Right? This is a fair outline, you'd say. So this, it's not enough. There's no anatomy here. There's no real anatomy. What you want to do is pinch the insides. So you want something that looks a little bit more, let me get a new layer, like this, pinched on the insides, and then it opens up into the eye. So you get more of that almond shape. Okay, all eyes have this. Whether it's a perfect almond or not, it doesn't matter. Whether it's downturned or not, doesn't matter. But all eyes have that little pinchy. Obviously, this is exaggerated. So this is what I'm going to try to do in the piece that you have here. Also, the eyes look like they're looking down. The 14-day challengers should always draw eyes like they're looking up. And the way you do that is by putting the eyeball above the middle kebab stick line that goes in between the two corners. Let me show you what a kebab stick line is. All right, so I'm going to do both eyes. So again, what's the first change that I did to make the eyes look like they're looking at us? I literally just raised them, which is the first and most important motion of a forward-looking eye. And then what I did was I pinched down on the edges and pushed in, so we get more of that spherical look to the eye. Push in, pinch down. All right, so I'm gonna draw that kebab stick, that little bamboo toothpick, whatever it is, that cheese stick. I don't know, man, with that little stick that you put in a block of cheese when you're getting samples at Costco. So we have this little stick, right? So watch what happens. Watch what happens to the ball of the eye. Oh, right, of course. So select first, and then go before. Paste it, get the new thing, draw the toothpick, cheese stick sample. All right, so before, after. Do you see how the eyeball is now mostly above that line, where before it was cutting halfway through? We want the eyeball to be mostly above that line if an eye is facing forward. Okay? Hello, head in the clouds. Welcome. It's okay. And then what I'm going to do is get my pencil and make sure that the lower eyelid brushstroke ends at the lower eyelid. Why would the lower eyelid expand into the upper eyelid? Right? That makes no sense. Well, this one's better. And then I'm going to just throw that up. And complete the blocking stage, but this time my blocking brush is just a touch more soft. It's obviously still working as a blocker. I'm not really blending as I move. I'm going to get rid of the excess highlight you have on the lower eyelid. The lower iris. Just like that. And then I'm going to clean up that waterline. If you're confused about the waterline, if the waterline is turning into a really stressful line and you're not sure how to do it, get the white of the eye, bring it all the way down to the eyelid value. All right. So if you've done so many edits that you've lost touch, like you've lost the waterline, it's kind of just escaped you. Find where you want that eyelid to end, push it right up against edge to edge, really super clean edge. Basically get rid of the waterline and start over. Then you're going to get any nearby mid-tone, and you're just going to brush it over top, in between the two of them. You can lower the opacity, and you're going to build up this waterline until it's as bright as it needs to be. Don't force the waterline, constantly liquefying it and changing it up until it just becomes this mush line. It's not waterline anymore. I'm going to clean up the inner corner and make sure that's showing that this is where the edge of the eyeball is. I'm going to add the crease of the lower eyelid. As you can see, I'm going to add the blackest black that I can find on the pupils. And that's another thing, is that your blackest black was never used, but you used an almost black everywhere. And you'll see in the before and after. And I'm going to add that to the lash line. And then I'm going to add that specular highlight. Let's do the same on this side. So completely erasing your waterline, finding where you want, and if you don't want to mess around too much with symmetry, just draw your line, and that'll show you where that edge should be. And then just cleaning up. And finding the edge of the eyeball, placing in that highlight of the inner waterline, zooming out, making sure everything is okay for now. Okay, and then I clean up the edge of the eyeball itself. You want that to be something like not too sharp that it looks fake, but sharp enough that it looks like it's part of the focal point, and there we have high resolution. And I'm just picking the background color, lowering opacity, and then I'm going to build up the waterline. Okay, doesn't need too much work or effort or stress. Restart the waterline if it ends up being too much. Then I'm going to get pure black and use it for the pupil. All right, and then I'm going to also use it for the lash line where we have the blackest black of the hair. Most of the hair grows there. And then I'm going to add the specular highlight. You can add it symmetrically to the one you have on the other side. Oopsie. I'm going to add the darkness of the iris at the top. And then I'll add the specular highlight. You can add it symmetrically, or you can add it on the other side. Or you can be like anime and just add it everywhere you like. It's really up to you. Just depends on what's happening in the room around the character. Another thing is, yes, that we may have a darker upper lip, but it also feels muddy here too. So I'm going to get lighten, and I'm going to lighten this area in a new layer. And then I'm going to delete only on the line where the two lips overlap. That is an area that's blocking light. Okay, and then from a distance, zooming out is a really important part of the painting process. All right, write that back to me. Zooming out is painting. That's how you paint. You can't paint certain aspects unless you zoom out. All right, so I zoomed out to create that cylindrical recession of the lip. And you see how it looks just a little bit less muddy, a little bit more uniform. And you can bring that lip liner look back that we get sometimes even with natural lips. Yes, zooming out is painting. And then I'm just blending this out here. And blending this area out. The next thing I'm going to do is just clean up the edge of the face. I could probably do this in a new layer. Yeah, let me merge down. Those sharper edges, those overlap edges are really important. I don't feel like I've talked about edges enough, even though all I do is talk about edges. But it feels like I still don't see enough of a language and the members of this community, enough of a language in their work that shows that there's an understanding, edge language, that there's an understanding of the different types of edges. I feel like some students are still struggling with that. Do you guys still struggle with edge language? Which edges are describing what kind of form situation? I feel like maybe I should do a couple more videos on that. So I blended the inside of these eyebrows. I'm going to let some highlight sit on top of the eyebrow. Why am I doing that? Because eyebrows are oily, and so they can reflect the light a little bit. It adds just something, it adds a really cool textural difference between the skin and the hair. We don't want it to look like the hair is just painted onto the skin. We want it to look like there's differences there. I'm going to grab the outside color of around the eyebrows and drag it down. And that's going to create that feeling that the eyebrows are growing. Is everybody still with me? Hi, Benny. Everybody still waking up from the weekend? And I'm going to grab the value underneath and drag it up. And that's also going to create that feeling of growth. Okay. And then once again, adding that eye socket shadow just underneath and blending out that upper lip. Okay, and then I'm just going to try to continue that look that it's, you know, a more of an ethnic skin tone. Ethnic, is that the right word? But just a skin tone that's a bit darker. And then I'm going to add that cheekbone in. And I'm just rounding out the cheekbones. This is a female face in name. But I've seen males that look like this too. Maybe a heavier brow bone, because at the end of the day, the male and the female, the difference isn't just in potential facial features, but you know, like less full lips or bigger noses or eyes closer together. But it's also in the bone density, so the hormonal differences. And that changes the way the bones look. They actually get heavier. The brow bone is gigantic in males. If you've ever really taken a look, you can see that the male forehead is just packed. I'm just going to put that on darken. And then I'm going to start applying the white. Remember, even when you paint skin tone in color, you are using white. Let that sink in. Even when you paint skin tone in color, you are using pure white. And the reason is because skin is reflective and has the ability to reflect the full nature of the light source it falls on. And that's the missing formula sometimes for you guys when you're painting skin. You use like light beige for the skin tone. No, that happens by accident, the light beige, after you've used white. Even on dark skin, even on African skin, tan skin, olive skin, whatever, purple skin, you're going to use the light source's color because that's what skin is doing, capturing the light source. I'm going to let it stay blocky around the nose since the nose is a bit more oily. And the last thing I'm going to do is the volume of the eyeball, so the voluminous shape of the eyeball. So the first thing would be to put it on darken and apply the shadow of the eyelid. This is an important shadow to add, just like that. And I'm going to use soft brush to feather the edges. This makes it feel like the eyelids and the eyelashes are actually causing a shadow, which is their job. Okay? The job is, I don't know why I said that so passionate. I don't know why I said it like their job. um, which is their job. Like this is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to add that protective shadow over. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at myself. I'm trying so hard not to be as fast. Um, and then, um, and then so we. Okay, where was I? This is what they're supposed to do. Shadows protect the eye from the sun. And then what we have is the pure white of the eyeball. So that point of the eyeball where it actually catches the light. Okay. Um, excuse me. And I'm just going to delete it wherever it goes on top of the iris and the pupil. We're not, I mean, brown eyes don't always have this, so why should we force it? I'm sorry, I need to cough 1 second. Okay, so brown eyes sometimes don't always catch the light. And I think I'm nearing the end. I'm nearing the end. Let's just quickly tie this class up before I lose my mind. And then by default, by adding that highlight, we ended up with a shadow. I didn't add a shadow here. Do you see that? That happened because I added that highlighter. And if you must, you can add a little bit of light hanging out around the pupil, catching some light. Over here and over here. Okay. Let us take a look at the before and after and let Istebrak go to her cave once again until she emerges for the next critique hour. So I'm gonna just, you don't want those edges to be super sharp when it comes to the shadows of the eyelid. And then I feel like this is under rendered. It still looks a little bit sketched out. Please ignore that. That's my bird. She's just as insane as I am. And then just blending around the eye socket real quick before I forget. And then I'm going to use actually pure black along the eyebrows. Oops. Just to show that the eyebrows have a bit more pigmentation on them. So yes, everybody, COVID is back. Protect yourselves, wear masks, clean your hands. That stuff, that shit knocked me on my butt. I was out. I could not function. So protect yourselves from the Rona if you can. And I'm just going to darken a touch more around the eyebrows since everything looks just a little bit too monotone right now. Okay. bit of a dark spot around the edges of the mouth, just here and here. And then I'm just blending those out. Okay, let's take a look at the before and after. So before, wait, wait, wait a second. That is that's not ready. What's going on with my brain? I was not ready. Why did it say before? Why did my brain? This is too funny. Y'all are witnessing Istebrak COVID. Istebrak on COVID. I was like, so before, like, what are you talking about? So before, after, before, after, before, after, before, after. So yeah, there's a lot that has been changed. And I think that you can see a little more clearly now the patching that was happening. Do you guys see that patchwork? That made it look very, very muddy. Before, after. Wait, what? No. Oh my God, have I been doing it wrong this whole time? This is why I don't do critique hour when I'm tired. Um, Wait. Okay, this is the before. God damn it. Before, after, before, after. So you can see the patchwork. What I did was I went back to the drawing board. I went back to the blocking stage and I found the structure. And I made sure that all those blocks that I added between the cheeks and unifying the skin tone, I didn't care if they were messy. I made sure that they were true to each other as a form study instead of fixating on the fact that it's a portrait, because that's where your trap is. If you think about a portrait, you'll instantly start to make those line dependent decisions again, where you're over outlining everything, over blending everything, over relying on contrast. Those three things are symptoms of line dependence, which I believe plays a role in the student's mistakes today. Before, after. There's also that very and anatomically correct non-human shape to the eyes. It looks more like a cartoony eye. So I kind of added that pinching effect and pushed them in a little bit and added the inner corner. And then there's that shadow of the nose. Do you see how it looks a bit more like a reindeer or deer nose? That's because you over darkened the tip of the nose. Yes, fundamental changes, exactly. And you can see the patching around the mouth and that excessive shadow around the eye socket and the value sharing. So this student's got a long way to go. This is only their day 3, I believe. So that's pretty good for a day 3. You're moving forward. I hope this critique helps push you forward into even more realism, even more cleanliness. I mean, you guys can see that mine is more realistic, but you can also see that mine isn't realistic compared to other portraits. It's not like realistic portraits. It's not a portrait that doesn't look like a drawing. It still looks like a drawing, and that's why it's okay to keep pushing your realism, because you're never really going to look like hyper realism. Even if you add tons more realism, you're not in danger of losing your style. You're just in danger of having cooler work and work that looks a lot more pro looking. And that's good. Everybody wants that. So you're always going to have that painterly look to the work, even when you're adding realism. Okay, I think that's all I can manage for today. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. My masterclass and Portrait Studio are both the same price now. And Like me on Instagram. Don't forget. Is it follow me on Instagram? Follow me on Instagram. Check out my reels. I work really hard on them. Uh, what else? Oh, Free Palestine. That was a good one. Free Palestine. And if you want to submit your work for critique, all you have to do is go to istebrak.com and click on the subreddit icon right here. That'll take you to our subreddit where you can submit your work for critique. This is where I picked up today's piece. This is our HQ. This is where we do it all. All of the community challenges, there haven't been any so far, but all of the community challenges, everything, this is where it all happens, right here on the community. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.